Tom here from Lawrence Systems, and I've been reviewing for, well, about 2 months now, a Synology DVA1622. Now, I've done a lot of Synology videos, and we've sold a lot of Synology surveillance stations, but we have not done much testing or any commercial deployments with their new DVA series. And before I do so, I wanted to actually put it to use, put it to test, see if that face recognition works as good or if that license plate detection works as good as they say. And overall, I'm pretty impressed with it. So too long didn't watch. I think it's a pretty cool box. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into the details of my review, talk about some of the features it has, how we can do detection. And I already have another video linked down below of how you can do detection on Amcrest cameras and tie it to a non-DVA Synology. But that video still applies to the DVA Synology. So you can do this both with the DVA series or the non-DVA series. So there are a few different ways to do this, and they can work in conjunction with each other. So this video is going to focus on the features of the DVA, and that other video linked down below is if you just have a general Synology and want to add those enhanced detection features, such as vehicle and person detection, using the Amcrest cameras. So those are two separate things, but we're going to get started and show you the details and the enhanced features that you get with a DVA. Before we get into details of this video, though, let's first... Are you an individual or company looking for support on a network engineering, storage, or virtualization project? Is your company or internal IT team looking for someone to proactively monitor your system's security or offer strategic guidance to keep your IT systems operating smoothly? Not only would we love to help consult on your project, we also offer fully managed or co-managed IT service plans for businesses in need of IT administration or IT teams in need of additional support. With our expert install team, we can also assist you with all of your structured cabling and Wi-Fi planning projects. If any of this piques your interest, fill out our Hire Us form at lawrencesystems.com so we can start crafting a solution that works for you. If you're not interested in hiring us, but you're looking for other ways you want to support this channel, there's affiliate links down below to get you deals and discounts on products and services we talk about on this channel. And now back to our content. Now, the first place I want to start is here with the NVR Selector, because it's such a common question for people to ask which NVR is the right one for me. I'll leave a link to this. There's 10 cameras in this setup, 30 days to store, 24 hours recording, doesn't need HDMI, 4K resolution. We hit the recommend, and we're going to scroll down here and see what it recommends. And you can, of course, put these to match your scenario. And the DVA models are two of the top suggested ones. These are the two models available here in August of 2022. And the first thing you're going to notice, and we'll get more detailed in the specs later, but the maximum supported cameras are listed on here. So maximum number supported for the 1622 that we're reviewing today is just 16 cameras. And for this one right here, it is going to be 32 cameras on the DVA3221. Now you can tie multiple Synologies together. So there are scenarios where you may want to do that. It's out of scope of this particular video, but there are ways for you to have maybe more than one of these devices and bring them together into one place. Now, if you do need more cameras, they have other suitable systems if you wanted to bump it up to higher numbers, but we're going to focus on the DVA models here. Now we can start with the hardware specs, and someone may say that these are not going to be the fastest devices. They are adequate for what they need to do. No, they're not going to be as fast as your gaming PC that you're thinking about building. But that being said, the GPU in these, we have an Intel UHD Graphics 600 and an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 if you go for the higher end DVA3221. And with that, it's going to come some limitations. Now, there is a video output, so you can output the HDMI to a screen on the smaller 1622 model, but this is missing from the 3221. Now, they do have an external device you can get from Synology that will allow you to send the video out. They have the visual station units that you can use with this. So if you need that extended functionality, or if you different places where you need to display these like directly connected to a TV or some HDMI input, they do have options for that. Now, one other really notable thing about these two units is the number of drive bays, 2 bays versus 4. This is going to limit how many hard drives you can put in this. So this is obviously going to be a concern when it comes to storage and how much storage you need. And with the 1622, there is no expansion option for these, but with the other one, you can get the extra disk shelves and expand out those units. Now, much more important than the hardware specs is the software specs on these. When we scroll down, we're going to see all the different tasks, but very specifically, I want to cover this. And it's the people counting, vehicle counting, intrusion detection, or face recognition. If you set up a face recognition task, there's only one task allowed to be running at a time on this system. You can actually set up more than one task. You just have to disable the other tasks and rotate between them when you want that feature to be turned on. But that being said, the people counting tasks, vehicle counting tasks, those are 2 concurrent on this model and 12 concurrent on the other 3221 model. So those are a couple limitations you want to think about. The next one's going to be not just the cameras, but the number of licenses. These both come with a base of 8 free licenses. So that is 8 cameras that can be connected. And any cameras above and beyond 8, you'll have to buy a license for. That being said, if you wanted to buy another Synology and not use one of these DVA models, your licenses are transferable. Your licenses are also one-time purchase perpetual, so you don't have to keep renewing them annually or at any given time. So if you were to buy this unit and you wanted to have 12 cameras, you'd only have to buy 4 licenses. Well, either one of these, the same number, because they both come with that 8 free licenses. But if you were to move to a Synology that did not have as many free licenses, you would have to fill in the gap by buying the licenses based on the base that that particular model came with. Now, something I also leave linked down below is Synology has a really good video on how to set up their camera system, how to set up the tasks. And these are really important features, such as what the face resolution ideally is. And it starts at 125 by 125 pixels. Obviously, more pixels would be better. You're going to get a better face recognition. They talk about the camera tilt angle, installation height, and this is to help set up a more ideal situation for the camera. Now, that may or may not be possible, and that's what I want to cover in my review here, is how I have my camera set up and what it was able to do with, well, less than ideal setups, because the real world doesn't always lend itself to putting cameras in exactly where you want them, just above a door to have the least amount of angle and the best resolution. But that's what this was, a real world test when I set this up. But nonetheless, I'll leave this video linked down below because they have a lot of details on things like how to optimize it for some of the vehicle references, and including things I did test the license plate, and testing things like the license plate does require the camera to be at an angle to have a good view of it, but we're still going to do it from the top of my garage because that's when my camera was, and yes, it did work from there. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that these Synology DVAs are just like any other Synology, except they have the extra enhanced features, but you still have the full package center. I can still install other services, all the full Synology packages that this unit supports, but something to consider. And what I have pulled up in the background is the resource monitor. And you can see there's quite a bit of CPU utilization. The CPU utilization is going to be directly in relationship to the tasks that you have running, such as the deep video analytics for face recognition or the license plate recognition, people counting. Any of those are going to maintain some higher CPU usage. So if you start running some other packages on here, as they place demand, they will be competing with resources for your NVR tasks. So that's something to consider. Even though it does support all of these features, you really want to limit how much you overstress this to keep the performance reasonable. It will work perfectly fine, load it up as an NVR to its max specs, but that does not leave a lot of resources left over in order to do some of the other functions. Now let's switch over here to Surveillance Station. Now I currently have one of the face recognition tasks running. So this right here is running right now. That's what's taking up a lot of the CPU. I can run this as a task singular, or I can run the deep video analytics, which allows me for the vehicle task or people task, where it detects if the person's in there or if it detects if there's a vehicle in there. And of course, it will do the license plate as well. We'll cover that shortly. The other thing to note is the cameras that I have on here, which are linked down below. There's some Amcrest cameras, and I've done a video on how to do that advanced motion detection. As I said, that works perfectly fine with the DVA model. So I'm using both the AI features of these cameras that have advanced notification that sense Synology, but that is completely separate from the DVA and the face recognition. Those can work simultaneously or on different cameras. Not any special requirements other than the camera have a clear view of the things you want to apply the deep video analytics to. That being said, the time-lapse functions that I'm running right now as well in the background, these smart time-lapse are also putting some extra pressure on this. And I wanted to make sure, and I've been running this for several months, that this system kind of went through its paces and held up to actual use, not like, well, it can do this task, but it will suffer at doing these other tasks. So I'm able to scroll through here fairly reasonably. We can go over here, play a video, and jump through it, jump to different sections. You're watching it. You have no problem with spinning hard drives in it, seek and find different files. Now, these drives are set up in a mirror for redundancy, but it's not really struggling. It is using a high amount of CPU. I've kept it pretty loaded up, but it hasn't had any problems. I've always had it running for the last few months, all these tasks, the Smart Labs tasks, along with the Deep Video Analytics tasks. Now, let's talk about the fun stuff, the Deep Video Analytics. And we'll start here with the face recognition. Now, who's on the porch is the task that I set up, and we're going to go ahead and edit that task. And you can name it whatever you want. You set up the events. You have allowed, blocked, VIP, registered. And what's kind of neat is when you're setting the parameters and drawing the area, and this is the area I said I wanted to draw in there, and what that relates to back into these allowed is building out different groups of people that you may want to have in here. Now, I've only got a couple of people in here, so I don't have many groups set up, but you build a group description and then you add these groups there. And this is a way to tell you who's allowed or who's blocked and can alert you maybe of a certain person or not alert you on other people that are known. We're going to go ahead and look again at the parameters. Zone count inclusive, you get to include or exclude zones, create the number of zones up to 3, zone display, show event type and user profile name or show frame only. And we could do a face detection test, but there's not anything to do right now. So we're going to go back to videos that are already done. Now, there were more people on this who's on my porch, but I narrowed it down a little bit. So when you're looking at the recognition results, it didn't have a bunch of strangers in there that I don't have permission to put on the internet for privacy reasons. So every time Amazon was here, yes, it detected the different Amazon people. And I can even see, for example, and you set up the people it recognizes. And for example, here's my daughter and grandchild coming up, and I don't have her registered, so it says unknown. But if I go to someone like myself, it'll briefly show me, hey, registered Tom. Even at these angles, and this is less than ideal situation according to the way Synology wants you to set it up. I have the camera kind of up in the top corner. It's still able to do a good job of recognizing faces. And that's what I mean by presenting real world situations versus, ideally you would want the camera just above the door at the perfect angle to look right at people as they come. But I don't really want a camera stuck right above my door, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. Businesses, that's more tolerant, but I like my camera kind of tucked away a little bit more hidden. Nonetheless, it is able to see people or even not people. Turns out all it needs is a disembodied head to do facial recognition. And we happen to have a mannequin head that I just stuck out the door. It had no problem saying, hey, look, we found another person. Now, where you register these people is pretty simple. You can create the face database, you register their names, and it gives you a percentage, a match as it finds them. Really simple to do the recognition on here. Add more people. You can create, you upload a file, make sure you're taking it face on with them, and you can then label all of these and it will apply these recognition there. Now, this is all done within the NVR. This is not sent out anywhere in order to do this. Next, let's talk about the Deep Video Analytics. Now, this is not for face or recognizing the person, just that a person or vehicle was in the driveway, or if there was a detection of someone crossing a area that you set up, such as the counting cars, counting people, or you can do crowds in this. So let's look at the person or vehicle in driveway, and we'll edit that task real quick. And settings, record all clips where people are detected or with the below rules. You can fine tune the parameters inside of here. That's actually well covered in the documentation and in their video they have for how to set these rules up and explaining what these do. But record all clips of vehicles detected below a certain threshold. Deactivate continuous recording for stationary vehicles is important because I park my truck on my driveway. I do have the license plate recognition on there. We have the license plate database right here. I don't have a database set up, but it does also want you to choose the location. So generic, Taiwan, Switzerland, Germany, France, Poland, etc. What this is letting you do is identifying what region of license plate it's looking for, and the database allows you to create a list of known that are in there so it can alert you based on that. As far as other parameters go, inclusive, zone count up to 3, ignore small objects, zone show all or show only areas. So you can fine tune it a little bit, and I got some analyzer and adjustment. I've only done this area right here. But let's look at the detection results. And here's a person or people in the driveway result. So this just recognized probably me getting out of the truck. So it says if there's a person. Now, as I said, this doesn't identify the person, just that there's a person. It's pretty simple. And if we go down here, I believe it's going to be this one here when I backed in the driveway. Now, what I want to point out here is the relatively small resolution. We'll zoom in a little bit on here so you can see the license plate. It's enough to read it. And as it pulls back here, it's recognizing the vehicle, and it grabbed the license plate off my truck. And I purposely just backed my truck up because I normally park it forward. And here in the state of Michigan, we don't have any license plates on the front of the truck. So I just backed it in. It recognizes the vehicle and was able to pull the plate. And when I was leaving the driveway, it noticed the plate. And when I actually came back later to do something else, it noticed the plate in there. So it does a good job of recognizing people, vehicle, and grabbing any of the plates. Once again, at a less than ideal, because I kind of have my camera at a high height. So even at that angle, ideally for a license plate, you are going to think like parking garage. You'd want to put the license plate reader or a camera that you're using for this a little bit lower. And once again, this is not a special camera. This is just another Amcrest camera, and at a 4K one at that, so it's able to get enough pixels to be able to read those. Now I have this other task, who's on the porch. I don't have any alerts for this one in particular, but basically I had it just set up to make sure it would alert me if someone was on the porch. I just want to know if there was a person versus a squirrel on the porch, and it seemed to do a good job of determining squirrels versus people and understanding them. I ran this one for a couple of months because counting cars was kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and look at this task. Now, people counting would not be quite as much fun. There's not a lot of people walking in front of my house, but setting it up so you can say vehicles entering or exiting, and I'm using my street as the example, and then in the parameters, this is how you draw it out. So we have enter or exit. I said, watch the road right here. So as cars drive by, it counts whether they're entering or exiting. So it's actually north or south. If they're heading towards enter, they're heading north, and this is heading south on my road. The reason for doing this is I just want to know how many people drove down my street. And that was kind of an interesting result. I didn't realize that many cars, and partly because of some construction and things that are going on more than usual have been going around things. And let's look at the detection results for that. And that comes out in a report. By the way, there's also a license plate report where it'll have all the license plates and you can download an HTML or Excel format. But when it comes to the counting reports, you can count people, DVA event counting, or let's do vehicle counting. And then we're going to change it to monthly. And this is what it looked like in August. This is what it looked like in July. And you can see how many vehicles were going up and down my street. 918 one way, 718 the other. So because entering was them heading north. So 921 cars in 24-hour period went north, and 734 went south. Kind of the way the construction was going. That was the easiest way around. You can display this as a bar chart or as a table. And you can, of course, export this HTML or standard Excel format. This makes it really easy to do further analytics of these. By the way, this is something interesting. When you export these, the vehicle counting, it doesn't just dump them into a spreadsheet. It actually builds the chart as well. I thought this was a nice little clever enhancement. So you can start manipulating the numbers, put them in, do some further analysis on there, but it's nice just to have the breakdown right there so you can have a nice base to start from to do your editing. Now, the next thing I want to comment on and point out here is we're going to go to IP camera. We're going to look at the driveway camera. We're going to go to edit. If we go over here to the event and then the advanced IVS systems, I do have this set up for face detect tripwire intrusion because this is a feature of the camera. These are working concurrently with the human and vehicle detection triggers down here. Those are working independently because that's from the camera, and I covered that in the other video. They work perfectly fine, and it doesn't affect anything when I build one of these DVA tasks to do things like the license plate results where it's pulling from the same camera. The two are independent of each other. One is being done directly on the NVR. The NVR is just getting a trigger in the other occasion from the camera, sending some extra data down the line to say, hey, there's a person that I seen in there. The reason I bring that up is because when you're going through, and this kind of depends on how you set up the task. So if you're doing these tasks, they show up differently as a detection result here versus the recordings that you'll go through. And to do an example, we'll filter it down to just that driveway camera, search for those. And then they still show up as advanced events in here, not just motion detection. But there are the deep video ones here. You can filter for these and go put them into a more concise way by going through the search here and adding the different event types. They do have the deep video analytics types, for example. I can put those in here if I wanted to, or the advanced events. So you can filter them down, filter them so they go together, but you can see, for example, all the detections happen in here because the deep video analytics was applied along with the camera analytics, so it all gets tagged to that particular video. So my final thoughts on this little box. There's a lot of power in a nice, tight, as they like to say, compact format here with the HDMI output if you'd like to output this to a screen so you can monitor the cameras there. Unfortunately, the bigger model oddly doesn't have it. You got to go with one of their other devices for displaying that. But with the pair of 8 terabyte drives that I have in here, which are the Seagate Iron Wolves, they, in a mirror, have no problem scrubbing through footage. So with spinning rust still in here, I'm impressed with how responsive it was with all the tests I've had running for the last few months going through the footage on it. So I'd say this is a really nice device, probably worth it because you really want to have better analytics when you're trying to figure out what happened, because having cameras and recording what happened versus figuring out when something happened. There's a time you notice it, and then there's like, oh, we have to go through all the faces. What if we could have an index of all the faces that cross this area so we could figure out that person, and then how many times did that person go and walk through this area? Those are really handy things to have to actually get to an answer quicker without someone having to pour through hours of motion events of the squirrels that run around just setting off the cameras. Overall, it seems to do a good job of recognizing people, grabbing license plates, even at less optimal angles, and that kind of goes for the face recognition as well. But of course, the more you tune the cameras and have a nice high-res camera at the best proper angle, you're going to get the best results out of it. So even with the less than ideal setups of my cameras, I'm pretty impressed. I was able to collect quite a few faces of people that have come by and all the different Amazon delivery drivers and other things that my wife has delivered to the house and friends that come over. It did have quite a database of them. I just chose not to throw them all on there. It does have that ability, though, once someone's face is in there, to search to collectively find all the times they got in there and even consolidate close matches. And from there, it gives you that analytics data. The people counting or car counting is actually quite cool as well. And that can be very helpful for businesses that want to understand foot traffic and time of day that it comes in, because it has good time slicing on there. So I'd probably recommend this product. It's something I wasn't too surprised that I would like, because I like the Synology surveillance station already. We've been really happy with it as a product line. It works with such a diverse amount of cameras, so we often find ourselves putting these in where customers have existing cameras that are already on the pretty massive compatibility list for Synology. And those Amcrest cameras that I've been using them for about a year now, and I've done a couple of reviews, and I've got that, of course, video where you have the camera set up and using the camera detection without the DVA series to give you the extra analytics data, and it works quite well, and it works quite well with the DVA series, and you get those enhanced features. So links down below to this if you're interested, and my other videos, and the Synology reference, and everything else I talked about on here. All right, thanks. And thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you've enjoyed the content, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to see more content from this channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. If you'd like to hire us for a project, head over to lawrencesystems.com and click the Hire Us button right at the top. To help this channel out in other ways, there's a join button here for YouTube and a Patreon page where your support is greatly appreciated. For deals, discounts, and offers, check out our affiliate links in the description of all of our videos, including a link to our shirt store where we have a wide variety of shirts that we sell, and designs come out, well, randomly, so check back frequently. And finally, our forums. Forums.lawrencesystems.com is where you can have a more in-depth discussion about this video and other tech topics covered on this channel. Thanks again for watching, and look forward to hearing from you.